Hello everyone and welcome back to the English Chatcast. You're tuning in to episode 7 of module 3 of the Blueprint for Effortless English. I'm your co-host, Ben.
And I'm Anna. Welcome back, everyone. We're officially in the home stretch of module 3. The conversational engine is running smoothly and you guys are driving like absolute pros out there in the real world.
It's incredible to see. In our last episode, we talked about conversational assertiveness. We taught you the double tap, we showed you how to politely interrupt, and we taught you how to defend your turn to speak when someone else tries to cut you off.
You learned how to fight for the microphone, but today we're going to talk about what happens when you actually have the microphone, but you hate the song that's playing.
That's a perfect way to describe it. We've all been trapped in a conversation that's just painfully boring. Maybe you're stuck talking to a coworker about their cat's complex dietary issues for 20 minutes, or you're stuck in a looping, endless conversation about the weather with a neighbor.
You're desperately looking for an exit. You want to talk about something, literally anything else. But you don't want to be rude, and you definitely don't want to give the other person social whiplash.
Social whiplash. I love that term. Social whiplash happens when you change the topic so aggressively and suddenly that it physically confuses the other person. You leave their brain spinning.
Right. Imagine someone is deeply talking about their favorite spreadsheet software, and you just suddenly say, "So, did you watch the football game last night?"
It's a total car crash. It completely breaks the conversational trust we built in episode 2. The other person instantly knows that you weren't listening to them at all, and that you were just waiting for your turn to speak.
So today, we're going to teach you the art of the pivot. Today's topic is changing the topic smoothly. We're going to give you the native cheat codes for steering the conversation exactly where you want it to go without anyone even realizing you're doing it.
Before we teach you how to escape a boring conversation, we have our usual quick favor to ask. If you're getting value out of this 50-episode blueprint and you're excited to upgrade your social toolkit, please hit that like button and subscribe to the English Chatcast channel.
It's the absolute best way to support the podcast, and it helps the algorithm push these lessons to other English learners who are currently stuck in awkward conversations. Thank you so much for your support.
Let's start with the most elegant way to change a topic. We call this the natural bridge. A natural bridge is when you take one tiny detail from the current boring topic and you use it as a stepping stone to cross over into a completely new, exciting topic.
This requires active listening. You can't just zone out and plan your escape. You have to listen closely to their boring story and hunt for a key word. You're hunting for a noun, a location, or an emotion that you can hijack.
Let's say your coworker is complaining about how terrible the traffic was on their commute this morning. They're talking about highway construction, brake lights, and terrible drivers. It's a very negative, dull topic.
You definitely don't want to talk about traffic for 10 minutes. So you listen for a key word. They mentioned that they were listening to a podcast while stuck in their car. Podcast is your golden key word.
You validate their frustration first, exactly like we learned in episode 5. You say, "Wow, that sounds like a miserable commute, but at least you had a podcast. What were you listening to?"
Boom! You just built a bridge. You seamlessly transitioned the topic from boring highway construction to their taste in media and entertainment.
And from there, the conversation opens up entirely. They tell you they were listening to a true crime podcast. You ask if they watch true crime documentaries on Netflix. Suddenly, you're having a deep, engaging conversation about movies and television.
Let's do another example of a natural bridge. Suppose someone is talking endlessly about the rain. It's been raining all week, their basement is flooding, the yard is a mess. It's another negative loop.
You listen for the key word. You say, "Yeah, this rain is absolutely brutal. It actually makes me really miss the summer." Do you have any warm vacations planned for this year to escape the weather?
You just pivoted from the weather to the D in the FORD method, dreams and travel. You use the contrast of the rain to build a bridge to a much happier, more engaging topic.
The natural bridge is the smoothest transition because the other person thinks the conversation naturally evolved. They don't feel like they were cut off. They feel like you're deeply engaged in their narrative.
But sometimes you can't find a natural bridge. Sometimes the topic is so incredibly boring or specific that there are absolutely no usable keywords to hijack.
When that happens, you have to use a soft pivot phrase. These are established English idioms that signal to the listener that the topic is about to shift, that they do it in a very polite, gentle way.
The absolute king of all soft pivot phrases is speaking of which.
Speaking of which, this is a brilliant phrase. It implies that whatever you're about to say is somehow connected to what they just said, even if the connection is incredibly weak.
Exactly. You can use speaking of which to link almost anything. Let's say your friend is talking about buying a new pair of running shoes. You want to talk about an upcoming birthday party.
Oh, nice. Those shoes look super comfortable. Speaking of which, are you wearing those to Sarah's party on Friday?
You just completely changed the trajectory of the conversation from footwear to weekend social plans. But the phrase, speaking of which, made it feel like a logical progression.
Another fantastic soft pivot is that reminds me. This one is highly native. It tells the other person that their story successfully triggered a memory in your brain.
Even if it didn't actually trigger a memory, it's a great excuse to change the subject. Someone is talking about their annoying landlord, you say, "Oh man, dealing with landlords is the worst. That reminds me, I need to ask you about that plumber you hired last month."
You validated their pain, and then you used that reminds me to pivot to your own pressing question. It's flawless.
We also use the phrase, funny you should mention that. This is a very charismatic transition. It creates a sense of coincidence and shared experience.
If someone brings up a topic that's remotely related to what you want to talk about, you jump on it. They say, "I'm so tired of eating chicken and rice for dinner." You say, "Funny you should mention food. I was actually just looking for a new sushi restaurant to try this weekend."
Funny you should mention that. Speaking of which, that reminds me. These are your transitional cushions. They lubricate the conversational engine so you can switch gears without grinding the clutch.
But what if you need to make a complete 90-degree turn? What if there's absolutely no connection between the current topic and the topic you urgently need to bring up?
This happens a lot in business settings, or when you suddenly remember something important that you have to tell your friend before you forget. You have to use a hard pivot.
A hard pivot is a phrase that explicitly announces you're changing the subject. You're holding up a giant neon sign that says, "Warning, new topic approaching."
Because it's so direct, you have to use very specific, polite language to avoid sounding rude. The most common hard pivot is not to change the subject, but...
Not to change the subject, but it's literally an apology for doing exactly what you're about to do. It's like saying, "With all due respect," right before you say something disrespectful.
Right. You say, "Yeah, that spreadsheet sounds really complicated." Not to change the subject, but did you ever get that email from the marketing department?
It's abrupt, but the apology softens it just enough to be socially acceptable. Another great hard pivot is on a completely unrelated note.
I use this one all the time with my friends. On a completely unrelated note. It's very honest. You're admitting that your brain just jumped tracks entirely.
You're talking about the weather, and suddenly you say, "Yeah, it's super cold today." On a completely unrelated note, did you see the season finale of that show last night?
You can also use the phrase, "before I forget." This is the ultimate excuse for a hard pivot. It blames your bad memory instead of blaming their boring topic.
Oh, I love that one. Someone is talking about their dog's vet appointment. You listen, you validate, and then you say, wow, I really hope the dog feels better soon. Hey, before I forget, I need to ask you if you're free for lunch next Tuesday.
It creates a sense of urgency. You had to interrupt the dog story because your brain was about to lose an important piece of data. People are very forgiving of the "before I forget" pivot.
And if you're taking control of a meeting or bringing a group of people back to focus, you use the phrase moving on or shifting gears for a second.
Shifting gears is a fantastic business idiom. You say, okay, that covers the budget report. Shifting gears for a second, let's talk about the upcoming conference in Chicago.
It's authoritative. It tells the room that the previous topic is officially closed and it's time to focus on the next item on the agenda.
Okay, so we've covered the natural bridge, the soft pivot, and the hard pivot. But there's one more technique, and it's a lifesaver when you're completely trapped in a dead-end conversation with an awkward silence. We call it the environmental pivot.
We touched on this briefly in our small talk episode. The environmental pivot is when you use something in your immediate physical surroundings to spark a brand new topic of conversation.
Let's say the conversation has completely died. You're standing in the kitchen at a party, you talked about work, you talked about the weather, and now you're both just staring at your shoes in silence.
Instead of panicking, you look up and find an object. You look at the food. You look at the artwork on the wall. You listen to the music playing in the background, and you use it to restart the engine.
Wow, that guacamole looks incredible. Have you tried it yet?
Or you listen to the speakers and say, I love this song. Do you know what band this is?
You're using the physical world as a conversational defibrillator. You're shocking the conversation back to life.
The environmental pivot is brilliant because it's low pressure. You aren't asking a deep, personal question. You're just sharing an observation about the shared space you're both standing in.
You can even use the other person's clothing or accessories as an environmental pivot. Genuine compliments are the absolute best way to change a dying topic.
Yes, if the conversation is dying, just compliment them. I have to say, I absolutely love that watch you're wearing. Where did you get it?
Or, those glasses look great on you. A genuine compliment completely resets the energy of the interaction. It makes the other person feel good, and it instantly opens up a new avenue of conversation about shopping, style, or gifts.
Let's put all of these transitions to the test. Anna and I are going to do 2 short role plays. The first role play is going to demonstrate the dreaded social whiplash. I'm going to change the topic abruptly and rudely.
And notice how uncomfortable it makes the interaction feel. I'll start by talking about a stressful topic.
Ready.
So, I took my car to the mechanic yesterday because the brakes were making this weird squeaking noise. And he told me that I need to replace the entire rotor system, which is going to cost like $800.
Did you watch the basketball game last night?
No, I didn't. Like I was saying, $800 is just way out of my budget right now.
Yeah, I'm starving. You want to go get food?
And scene. That was physically painful to participate in.
It felt awful even pretending to do that. I completely ignored everything you said. I didn't validate your stress about the $800, and I just smashed my own completely unrelated topics into the conversation.
It made me feel like you didn't care about me at all. Now, let's rewind. Let's do the exact same scenario, but this time, Ben is going to use a natural bridge and a soft pivot to change the topic smoothly.
Take 2.
So, I took my car to the mechanic yesterday because the brakes were making this weird squeaking noise, and he told me that I need to replace the entire rotor system, which is going to cost like $800.
Oh man, car repairs are the absolute worst. $800 is brutal. Do you think you're going to get a second opinion from another shop?
I think I have to. I just can't afford that right now, especially with the holidays coming up.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Speaking of the holidays, that reminds me, are you still planning on hosting the podcast crew dinner at your place next month?
Oh, yes! Actually, I was just looking at recipes for that.
And scene. Look at how beautifully that flowed.
It was perfect. Ben started by validating my pain. He said, car repairs the worst. Then he asked a relevant follow-up question about getting a second opinion.
I stayed in her topic for one more turn. Then, when she mentioned the keyword holidays, I grabbed it. I used the natural bridge.
And he combined it with a soft pivot. He said, speaking of the holidays, that reminds me. And suddenly, we were happily talking about a fun dinner party instead of my expensive broken car.
It's conversational magic. You can steer the ship anywhere you want to go as long as you use the right transitional words.
Mastering these pivots is what separates intermediate speakers from advanced, highly charismatic communicators. It proves that you're in complete control of the language.
Which brings us to your mission for Episode 7. We want you to practice steering the ship.
Your homework for this week is the Soft Pivot Challenge. Over the next 3 days, we want you to intentionally change the subject in an English conversation using one of the soft pivot phrases we taught you today.
You can use, speaking of which, that reminds me, or funny you should mention that. Wait for the other person to finish their thought. Find a tiny keyword, use your pivot phrase, and introduce a completely new topic.
Pay attention to how the other person reacts. Notice how they willingly follow you down the new path because you built a smooth bridge for them to cross.
After you successfully execute your soft pivot, come down into the comments section of this episode. We want a full field report.
Tell us exactly what the boring topic was. Tell us the pivot phrase you used, and tell us what the new, exciting topic was. We love reading about your conversational victories.
It's incredible to see you guys taking these tools out into the real world. You've learned how to start conversations, navigate disagreements, ask great questions, interrupt politely, and now you know how to change the channel when the show gets boring.
Your conversational engine is basically fully built. You've got all the mechanical skills to drive in heavy traffic. But there's one thing that takes a conversation from good to completely unforgettable.
And that's exactly what we're covering in our next episode. In Episode 8, we're going to dive deep into storytelling techniques.
We're going to show you how native speakers structure their anecdotes. We'll teach you how to build suspense, how to use pacing, and how to deliver a punchline so that people actually want to listen to you speak for 5 minutes straight.
Storytelling is the ultimate test of your English fluency, and we're going to give you the exact blueprint for doing it flawlessly. You absolutely won't want to miss it.
But for today, practice your transitions. Hunt for those keywords, build your natural bridges, and always avoid social whiplash.
I'm Den.
And I'm Anna. If you learned how to escape a boring conversation today, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Let's keep steering this ship together. Until next time, keep practicing, keep listening, and remember, learning English with us is
A piece of cake! Thanks for listening, everyone. See you next time on the English Chatcast.